On today's show, it's all kinds of all over the place. We got Kyle Lowry rumors. We got Dragic rumors. We got front office. We got coaching rumors, coaching assistant rumors, all kinds of stuff. We'll get into it today on Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com, the rumor wrangler, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
It's the best time of the year. This is what we're made for. This is what we were created for. Was these 2 weeks of NBA draft, NBA free agency. It's trade. We have like two different type of trade season. Trade deadline is always a lot of fun. This is trade season 2. It's so much fun. There's literally rumors dropping. Feels like every other hour around the league. Just hook it up to our veins. Let's do this.
100% hook it up to our veins. The draft is going to be absolutely incredible. I got the chance to go to WFAA Studios today in Dallas to check out. Look at this, baby. Look at this set right here. This is a real set. If you're watching on YouTube, this is a real set that Locked On is going to be streaming a show from tomorrow. Subscribe to the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. Follow Locked On Network on Twitter to be able to watch the show. It's also going to be broadcast on every single Tegna website. So the WFAA website will be up there as well. It's absolutely incredible. It was a pleasure to go and check it out, to see it. Chad Ford will be on it. That's the one place Chad Ford will be. We were talking today. I finally got to meet Chad Ford and talk about some rumors, some stuff like that, all kinds of stuff. So it was really good. Rafael Barlow is going to be on there, as well as John Corrales. It's great, and it's going to be awesome. Go watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into our topics today. We're going to be talking all about the rumors. Let's start with Kyle Lowry. That seems to be the big rumor. We've been talking about him for days now. So if you don't know where we stand, this is a good episode for you, because we're going to be talking about Kyle Lowry again. From Mark Stein, the Mavs post-draft focus, sources say, will be the pursuit of Kyle Lowry, along with Miami, New Orleans, and Philadelphia, and their bid to re-sign Tim Hardaway Jr. Dallas was initially expected to wait and see if Kawhi Leonard gave any indication that he was open to leading the Clippers, but the Mavericks have moved off those plans. First of all, the Mavericks moving off the plans for Kawhi Leonard, who we talked about as the next Dwight Howard, and only in the sense that the Mavericks waited on Dwight Howard in 2014, 2013, missed on a bunch of guys, missed on Andre Iguodala specifically, who was on JJ Redick's podcast and talked about missing out. This is a change in strategy. This is a change in approach for the Dallas Mavericks we have not seen. And these are the kind of things when we talk about, we don't know how this front office operates now. We don't know how this coaching staff operates now, because for so long, for as long as Isaac and I have covered this team, it has been Carlisle sees centers this way. Carlisle sees playmakers this way. Donnie Nelson sees, the draft this way. Donnie Nelson sees international prospects this way. They see, free agency this way. It's always been a specific way, and now it's not. And this right here from Mark Stein is a change for the Mavericks. At least if this is to be true, right? This is big misinformation time. I'm not saying that Mark Stein is saying something false. I'm saying that everybody's throwing stuff out there. How many rumors have you guys seen all over the place? Just this and that and this and that, and the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in 6 for number 1 and all that kind of stuff getting thrown out there. But if this is true, Isaac, then all of a sudden this is a change for the Mavericks from the past. Well, even from Danny Green, right? From most recently, we saw them wait on Danny Green and miss out on a bunch of guys.
Well, yeah. They could very well do the same thing with Kyle Lowry and wait on Kyle Lowry to make a decision. So it's not about
why do you got to bring us down already? I was ready to get excited.
It's not about the waiting for a certain free agent, even like a Danny Green. It's the big name, big fish. Oh, that it's either the big fish or we're picking up scraps at the very end. That's what a lot of people were scared about the Kawhi thing. But all the different reports and Woj on TV and people on podcasts, Zach Lowe and Mark Stuff, like it feels like everyone is kind of this consensus right now of, hey, there's no reason that Kawhi is going to leave the Clippers. It's a lot of people just thought, that was in the bag, anyway. Feels like it's that way now. And for Dallas to even have this, for Stein to say that, and in the past would have been, all right, he's probably going back. You know what we're going to do? We're still going to try to make our pitch, spend our, the opening hours of free agency on that. So, I mean, take whatever you want to. I mean, I was obviously very clear on, I didn't think they should go after Kawhi in the first place. And so this was welcome news to me. I enjoyed this. I gladly read those news. But the bigger thing in that was the Kyle Lowry thing. We have talked about him so much on this podcast for months and weeks and
years. We've talked about years for Kyle Lowry.
Yes, of how he'd be a great fit in Dallas and how much we want him here. But just to see that Dallas is, so many of these teams are angling for Kyle Lowry, and that tells you that, there's a reason why, because all these teams believe that Kyle Lowry can make a difference. But the Dallas is one of those teams that's trying to make that space happen. They want to bring, him and Tim Hardaway in, but can they put a competitive offer on the table that's going to match some of these other teams out there that can match a New Orleans? We joked yesterday, would New Orleans say 35 a year? I mean, that's crazy to think about, but is that what it's going to take for a smaller market like New Orleans to get a Kyle Lowry compared to, 20 to 25 from another franchise out there? It could be a title contender.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are ways also, and in this, they talked about, also wanting to re-sign Tim Hardaway Jr., so the Mavericks are going to pursue Kyle Lowry and the bid to re-sign Tim Hardaway Jr. So in doing that, if we think both these guys are going to get, let's say Tim gets 15 to 18, Kyle Lowry gets 25 to 30, you got to move somebody. You got to do something with some of these guys. You can't just sign these guys straight up like that. So there's going to have to be some kind of move. So we've been thinking, if we see the Mavericks do what the Pelicans just did, sort of, and try and make some kind of cap clearing move, then maybe that's a signal or an indication that they're really going after this and they're really going to try to do something like that, because there has to be some kind of movement if they're going to try to do both of those things.
Exactly. So you look at, the candidates for as far as a trade like that. You look at Josh Richardson, has the player option around $11 million. If they're sitting there talking to Josh right now before the draft saying, okay, you want to opt in, then this is where we're going to send you on draft night. And he knows if he opts in, he gets to kind of like choose that, right? Because even if he doesn't want to go to that place, does he want the money, but he's going to have to go to blank team, whatever that team is? Or if he doesn't like that team, he's going to opt out, which is a win for the Mavericks anyway, too, because then, either way, he's probably not going to be on the roster next year. So
one thing on Josh Richardson, does the coach change anything?
I think that ship's just sailed.
Okay.
Probably. So that's why it's like, I know like a trade, like what do you want for Josh Richardson? Like, let's just say they're going into draft night saying, all right, he's opting into $11 million. That's for sure. If their main focus is we want to get off the $11 million for Josh Richardson, like, what will the fan base be okay with? Like, and I'll just say this. If right now, or if on draft night, we get a notification on our phone and it's Josh Richardson's been traded to the Raptors for pick 46 in the second round, and it's just that. Is the fan base happy at that point? Because immediately when I see that, it's like, okay, they're just going to take a flyer second rounder. It's going to be on the summer league team. We don't know if they'll be on the roster. He'll be in training camp. But it's a salary cap dump too. But they also traded for Josh by giving up Seth Curry. I know there'll be a portion of the fan base saying, we gave up Seth for nothing at this point a year later. How would the fan base take that if they just dumped Richardson's $11 million for a second round pick on draft night?
Honestly, I think fans would be okay with it. They've so moved on from Josh Richardson, and like the trade is so far and away, like a failure in that sense that I think it just to move on from it and cut ties. I think it is fine now. So which really stinks, man. Like he should have been the guy that fit really well in this team, and if was a fifth, right? Like,
but there's also other contracts too. Dallas could, Josh is the obvious one because it didn't work, didn't fit, and everything, and the expiring contract. But where it gets even more crazy for Dallas is if some of these names that we've seen wearing a Mavericks jersey for so long, if Dallas goes out on draft night and trades a Dwight Powell or trades a Maxey, somebody like that, and in addition to Josh or one of those guys, and we're like, whoa, like we're not used to seeing these guys being traded, but we also don't know how this coaching staff or front office views this current roster, even though they're saying the right things in interviews. So there's a lot of different ways Dallas could create some more flexibility on draft night.
Absolutely. We'll talk about how they can do that. It's a couple other more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They sent me a giant package that we will be eating. They are sponsoring our Locked On NBA Draft Show. So they sent it to me so I could bring it to the draft room. It's not just they sent me that specific one. The grasshopper cookie, they sent me a whole package of that, which I'm excited to test out. You'll see it on our set. Get a Built Bar today. The Mint Brownie's always solid, 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar. You can go get them today. The Toffee Almond Bar is back if you're interested in that. Those are 2 flavors that I kind of like separately, but maybe not necessarily together. But together in a Built Bar, it works. Go check it out, Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more rumors. We got so many things going around. Anything else we've talked about Kyle Lowry a lot, but if anybody hasn't heard us, if you guys are listening for the first time, Kyle Lowry would make this Mavericks team, I believe, a championship contender. He would bring the fire. He would bring the leadership, the veteran experience. He would bring functionally as a point guard, as a secondary creator. He would bring everything the Mavericks have been looking for. For 2 off seasons, we've been trying to check some of these boxes, and he would check all of them. He is older. Yeah. He's going to be 35, but still, we just saw Chris Paul at, same age or older, like just pull off a title run, and he had to do more than what the Mavericks would ask Kyle Lowry to do.
Yeah, and it depends on obviously the length of that deal too. I think where it gets a little tricky is I think we've had all things Mavs on this pod before, and he put out the other day on Twitter of would you give 3 years, $90 million to Lowry?
Yeah.
And that's the one where you start thinking more, right? Like I'm down for some high salary 2-year deals. It's the 3-year, I don't think anybody's doing a 4-year. I could be wrong, but that's where somebody like the Pelicans could come in and say, hey, we're going to have to outbid somebody. What if the Pelicans says, hey, we'll give you 4 for 100? It's like, or 2 for 70. And it's like, they're probably going to have to overpay to get Kyle Lowry because other teams out there who don't even have cap space are going to be making a run to it in the sign and trade options with Toronto.
But the difference between, 4 for whatever, with the Pelicans and the Mavericks is going to be Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd. Can those guys hold up their end of the bargain and make the Mavericks and Dallas become more attractive by their relationships, by the way that they can sell the team, right? This is where they're going to, bake and butter their bread in free agency and convincing guys like this to come and play for the Mavericks. So this is a big test, I think, first to start their tenure.
I want to point out something real quick. You said something about Jason Kidd. I know yesterday we talked about the Memphis New Orleans trade and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe did play 1 year for Jason Kidd in Milwaukee. He is kind of an expiring contract with that $3 million guaranteed after this coming season. I'm just saying that if there is some type of iteration of a deal to where even if he gets bought out, he has a relationship with Jason. I don't know what type, if that's great or not, but like he's at least played for Jason Kidd before. If, we're a week down the road, whatever it is, it's like that. I'm just saying, yeah. Anyway.
Zach Lowe called him a souped up Patrick Beverley today. Like you almost have to look at Eric Bledsoe in a different vein. He's not this, go out and score 20 points guy anymore, right? He's not your knockdown shooter guy, but he is going to play some solid defense, right? And so I think he could, if you look at him in a different way, like he's not a max player, but he's a really good role player. If you look at him like that, then possibly it would be better for the Mavericks to have him than he would be for a team like the Bucks, who asked him to do a little bit more shot creation than he was probably good for it. And so I'm curious if is he the next iteration of the DeLon Wright, Josh Richardson, Eric Bledsoe, if some of these other moves don't work out. But yeah, that would be an interesting one for sure.
Is he better than Josh Richardson right now?
The way Josh Richardson played last year, yeah, I think so, but probably close at this point. John Hollinger also mentioned in the Kyle Lowry stuff that Dallas is trying to clear room to get a leg up. Talking about Kyle Lowry. So all these teams, we just saw the Pelicans make their big move. Let's just speculate. What are some of these moves that the Mavericks could make to get a leg up? And what they're talking about is clearing more cap space, right? I mean, is there any other version of this where they're doing something else? They're bringing in Lowry's friend. Like, he doesn't have brothers that could add to their G League team, right? Like, what else could they do?
If I was going to try to do a move like that, the first thing I would do is hire a capologist, somebody that knows how to do cap numbers and everything. And there's a guy in Brooklyn who's great at that whenever assembling a team full of stars. And
this is from Bleacher Report, Jake Fisher. Dallas was targeting a CBA. I almost said CBD. CBA-minded lieutenant to join new president of basketball operations, Nico Harrison. The Mavericks have hired Brooklyn Nets official Andrew Baker, a respected salary cap strategist, for a senior role in Dallas's new front office, sources tell Bleacher Report. That's great. He just made the Harden, KD, and Kyrie thing work somehow and kept some of those guys and all that. And so they needed that. And
those grumblings have been there for a little bit, even right after the Nico hire. I remember Tim Cato being one of the first people saying, hey, I wouldn't count out another front office hire taking place at some point. And just some conversation here and there. It's like, okay, well, if they're going to do it, they're probably going to do it pretty soon. Bam, news came of that today, even though that's not official. But so what are some of the potential moves for Dallas?
Well, one more thing.
Yeah. Hey, what? Are you still in my bit?
Well, you threw in the one more thing on this, and I actually wanted to bring this up today. And since we already went into it, so the Mavericks have added now Andrew Baker, CBA, respected CBA capologist, which is redundant, but still. And they've also are on the verge. They're on like the 1 yard of the 1 yard line to add Igor Kokoskov, who is, a couple listeners have DM'd me and messaged him, as he's one of the best X's and O's coaches in all of Europe.
They messaged him? Like him?
They messaged me. They messaged me and was bragging on him and talking about how good he is and the way he worked with Luka and the way that he focused on Luka and Dragic and made them the best players and all that. I think that the Mavericks are checking some boxes as far as concerns we had when Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd specifically were added to the front office and the coaching staff. When Jason Kidd was added, what were the things that we said? Do we know if he's a good X's and O's guy, right? Do we know if those teams in Brooklyn and Milwaukee, were they better when he was on there? What can he bring to the table? A lot of insiders and people said that, I don't know if Jason Kidd is the best coach X's and O's wise. They add Igor, who's one of the best X's and O's coaches in Europe. They bring him over. He has a relationship with Luka. It's a perfect fit. Now, it's not official, but they're on the verge of doing that. And now the other question with Nico was, well, this is a shoe guy. He has relationships, but does he know the cap? Is he just going to be throwing stuff against the wall and seeing if it works and then getting slapped on the wrist because it doesn't work in the CBA? They bring in a guy now that does that. And so I think that these are two positive moves that check some of our concerns when Nico and Jason Kidd were hired.
For sure. I think so far, anyway. Let's see how this next week or so. I don't want to go into all that.
You did the opposite of one more thing just there. You did one less thing.
One last thing. Let's
one less thing. So we were talking about Kyle Lowry. Now to go back from our segue, the Mavericks are trying to clear room to get a leg up. Last couple of minutes here. Let's get into what are some of those moves that could happen that the Mavericks could pull off to clear some more space.
Well, I think you look at the teams in the second round and you say, okay, well, there's no way some of these teams are going to take all the draft picks. And you got to find teams who will have salary cap space, this coming summer to absorb one of those contracts. This is obviously something that's not going to happen on draft night because you got to wait for the new season to start for them to have cap space to be able to take the player. So it'd be one of those hey, we agreed to this type of deal. But just look at different teams in the second round who have multiple draft picks in that second round. So, OKC has 3 second round picks. And 3 first round picks. Are they really bringing 6 rookies to their training camp? Probably not.
They have 0 centers. They need somebody.
Charlotte, has a couple. Brooklyn has Brooklyn has 3 second rounders, which they're probably not a salary dump type of location, but like Toronto has 2 second rounders. Like I say all this because there's so many teams. New Orleans has multiple second rounders. There's all these teams in the second round that have 2 to 3 second round picks. There's no way they're taking all of those. Now they could obviously draft people and stash them overseas somewhere, but those are the type of teams where if Dallas comes calling and says, hey, can we give – this is just one example. You can obviously target a player who has maybe a non-guaranteed, small number going into next season. Target a player like that to where you don't even have to guarantee their whole contract. But that's the type of move I'm looking at draft night. I'm saying, what's a team that's trying to shop off on these draft picks that Dallas comes in and says, all right, we'll give you basically this player for a second-round pick and maybe a minimum guy or something like that, and it clears up an extra 10 to 12 million.
Who are those players? I mean, Josh Richardson is kind of one we've already.
You're going to let me off the hook on this. But.
No, they've already penciled in as him maybe turning down his option. So if he picks it up, that's money you still got to get rid of before you can have that max cap space to add, Kyle Lowry at 30 million or something like that. I think Dwight Powell is a big question mark because that's a guy that Rick Carlisle really, really liked and, worked really well in his system. Is Jason Kidd's system going to be the same? Now, part of it doesn't change because Luka works really well with these really good rim runners, and Dwight Powell is one of the best, but 11 million is a lot for a guy that just rim runs. And so I'm curious if that's a guy. He does have 2 years left, so the Mavericks may have to, add something to him to be able to get off of that. But maybe another team is interested in him.
Yeah, I mean, it's Josh Richardson, it's Dwight Powell, it's Maxey. Outside of that, you're not clearing up a ton of space, even if you try to trade Dorian Finney-Smith. I love Dorian.
That's $4 million, right?
Yeah.
So I think he's more valuable on the team as a 3D guy
exactly.
than remove his $4 million.
You want a guy like that on your team. I mean, you want all these guys, but like for that cost, Willie Cauley-Stein is a team option. He was working out at the facility the other day. That really doesn't mean a ton to me. I know some people are like, "Oh, he worked out." That means he's, they picked
Miles
up
Turner works out at the facility. He doesn't play for the team.
So does Monte.
Monte Ellis have it all.
Brunson, that he makes 1 point. So it's really those 3 guys. Dwight, obviously we're not talking about KP in this scenario. That's a whole different ballgame. But
yeah,
Dwight, Josh, and Maxey, and especially for Dwight and Maxey. This goes into the conversation that we've said before. We don't know what the coaching staff in this new front office, how they feel about him, like how they feel about Maxey, how they feel about Dwight Powell, how they feel about these, how they feel about Jalen Brunson. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Do they view Jalen Brunson as like a long-term potential, point guard next to Luka, or, guard next to Luka, or they think he's a 6th man, or do they think he's like an 8th or 9th man that they try to like move this offseason? I don't know. Like, we just don't know how this front office and coaching staff views the roster at the moment.
Absolutely. There you go. We will get into some more coming up. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Rock Auto is the perfect place to go and check out what kind of parts they have for your car. Go, and if you don't know what a car is, go find it out. Go figure out what year, the make, the model, and all that. If you don't know that, there's a problem there, or maybe you stole it. But if you know your car, go there and check out rockauto.com. The year, the make, the model, all that stuff. It'll lead you down a pretty easy-to-use website, and easy-to-use interface where you can just look at the different options available. You go check that. Go see all the parts available for your car or truck, and rockauto.com prices are always reliably low for every single customer, not just the professionals, but the do-it-yourselfers as well. So go check that out. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more. Goran Dragic has been mentioned now with the Dallas Mavericks. We mentioned him a little bit earlier, talking about Igor being added to the coaching staff. Luka, obviously the connection there, the Slovenian connection. But according to Brian Windhorst of ESPN, Dragic could end up on the open market if the Heat need cap space. He is another one of those desired veteran point guards and has lots of fans in front offices, including in New Orleans and Dallas, where countryman Luka Doncic plays. Again, from Brian Windhorst of ESPN. Thoughts on Goran Dragic for all of our Slovenian listeners out there? Shout out.
Yeah, I think for him, he's the backup of backups. It's the high school situation to where you have the the prom date that you really want to take to prom, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to ask in this like elaborate way. And if they say no, then in the back of your mind, you're like, all
I'm gonna
right,
clear cap space for this prom date.
all right, I have my backup option. I know if they say no, then I can go to this person. Hopefully they'll go to prom with me. I think for Dallas, and I could be wrong on this, I think for Dallas, he's like the third option.
Is Dragic the friend that you like has been in your friend group? You're like, okay, we'll go as friends. You know, like I know there's nothing romantic between us, but at least we'll go as friends and have a good time. Or is Dragic the cousin that you're like, I don't want to, like this cousin doesn't go to the school, but I at least want to go with somebody, so I'm gonna bring my cousin. Which one is he?
No, this isn't Kentucky. This is what this is the friend in the friend group that has always been a friend. You know,
hold on, we can't get past that. You grew up in Kentucky.
I know.
Anybody you know went to prom with their cousin.
No, you always have those weird situations where like somebody and they're like, I don't know, that's like 31 going to prom. Like, what, why are you at prom? And, but no, it's, you know, for Dragic, especially at Dallas,
that was way too specific a story for it to be false.
I think it's this hierarchy of like Lowry's the is it Lowry's number one target. I would say, do you have the Mike Conley nugget too for the rumor for that? Or I wouldn't say rumor, but the report of that, how Dallas is.
No, I have the drop. I do not have the quote.
How Dallas, you know, is interested in Mike Conley too. Like, it's pretty evident Dallas wants a veteran playmaker alongside Luka Doncic, whether it's Lowry, Mike Conley, Dragic, and that's the order that I would put it in. I think Lowry's still the clear favorite. I think Conley would be the next move after that. We got to see what Utah, you know, is going to do to shed some money off that tax bill to get Conley back. But I think if both those guys are off the table, they, you know, is there some type of, you know, familiar whatever with for Dragic of they know they haven't like a back pocket type of, hey, let's call Goran, Igor, Luka, you know, come in and have some fun. Let's rekindle the Eurobasket.
With Igor, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And Dragic may cost less to come play for Dallas because he finally wants to come and reunite with them. And so I'm curious that
familiarity.
Let's go. So I'm curious what it would cost, and so I'm curious. Maybe we should do some like this would take some cap work, but like best case, you know, scenario, second best case scenario for, you know, the Mavericks if we're going through some of this, but.
And I think that would be the order and how much they cost too. Like I think Lowry cost the most out of those three, then Mike Conley a notch before that. I think Dragic is definitely a step below that as far as like salary, you know, goes. Is Dragic getting $20 million a year? I don't know. Like, but could Dragic?
He's not getting $20 million a year now.
Yeah, but like, could Dragic get 15? Will New Orleans overpay for him if they miss out on everybody? I don't know. We'll see though.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, Chris Paul would be on this list too. We think he's going to go back to the Suns, so that's why we're not mentioning Chris Paul. You know, Kyle, you know, Lowry, Conley, Dragic. The other point guards in this are like Dennis Schroeder. So like, you take a step down, right? Would you say Dragic is a step above Schroeder?
Interesting.
That's tough, right? Because they check different boxes.
I mean, I would still take Dragic.
Yeah, because I think he would cost less, come in,
Yeah.
You know,
Shorter term deal, and yeah, there's that connection there already. There is a risk, you know, you're gonna have to hand out a decent chunk of money to Schroeder, and so
the other point guards are like Lonzo Ball, who's like sort of a point guard, not really. Devontae Graham's a restricted free agent.
We had the Lonzo, you know, conversation, right? Of, you know, so let's just say New Orleans says, hey, we'll give you 35 for Lowry, you know, 35 to Lowry, and Lowry's like, well, crap, I can't turn down 35 for the next 2 years. And they have to just let Lonzo go. Lonzo's on the open market. And man, I think Lonzo is I'm excited to see where he goes. And I think a lot of teams will be very interested. There was a small snippet of Zach Lowe's conversation with Gavoni and
I listened to that today. Yeah,
Mike Schmitz, to where they were talking about Lonzo, just his free agency, and he didn't say the Mavericks or anybody by name, but he said there are teams across the league who have bigger, taller point guard playmakers, that run their offense that have asked him, what would a fit next to, Lonzo fit with our team look like? What do you think? There's only so many teams, that fit that definition, but
it's the Mavericks. Are we counting the Sixers in that? The Lakers? I mean, they already know him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not too many more.
That's true. True. Whatever team signs Andre Drummond. And so I just wonder what Lonzo's market will be, how much it will cost, what he wants, to where if a team like the Clippers try to do a sign and trade, or a team like Dallas comes in, or, does he want like more money, or does he want a younger team that he can have a bigger role in, like like Chicago or something like that, or like New York says, hey, come run our whole offense in New York City. Like, I don't know, but I will say there's one coach who said that he was number one on their draft board, and who really likes him, and that's Rick Carlisle. And let's see if Indiana Pacers make a move for Lonzo Ball this offseason.
That would be interesting. Guys, there you go. Go listen to the Ultimate Mock Draft. Still a great show to check out some of these guys, some of these prospects, to hear from Chad Ford, from Rafael Barlow, to hear from our boy Richard Stamen, Mavs Draft, about them, to hear the Locked On NBA hosts make the picks. Again, go follow Locked On Network on Twitter and Locked On NBA on YouTube to be able to watch our live draft show. It's going to be awesome. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!